Hey, everybody. Welcome to SF Indie Fest. We've been doing this for over 2 decades, and this is the first time we've had to present our festival as a virtual event. So we know we live in a weird world, and we're kind of embracing things as best we can. So thanks for joining us in our eclectic lineup of films. So today we're lucky enough to have the director behind the really cool film, Woman of the Photographs. And so if we can all welcome Takeshi Kushida, please. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's good. Great to meet you.
And we're recording this back early in January. And so while it's afternoon here in San Francisco, you've given us the pleasure of waking up very early at 6 a.m. in the morning to do this Q&A. Well, you know, it was really cool to run across your film because before I'd seen it in the submissions, I had seen that it had played at another festival or two whose programmers I really respect. And I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of very curious about this film and what I'm going to get into. And you've crafted a really interesting story. Maybe a good place to start out is how did you come up with this idea, and did you know you wanted to kind of mix these different kind of genre elements together?
Yeah, I was inspired to make a film about the relationship between women and photographs 10 years ago. At that time, I was working for making a poster advertisement, cosmetics advertisement with Japanese actress.
Oh, wow.
And she was totally obsessed with retouching her image. She came to the studio with her exclusive retoucher guy, and she told him, after taking photographs, she sit next to the retoucher and she told him to make her eyes bigger, remove the necklines, slim the waist, and she finally created another herself. And the image on the screen looks perfect, but I thought it is a weird thing that the real man is creating the real woman is creating another woman on screen. And that kind of thing was only for particular people 10 years ago, like models, actresses, and singers. But nowadays, a lot of women are doing retouching on SNS applications. So I thought this should be a good moment to make a film about women and photographs.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of underlying themes I think we all have to think about of the way that who we are, and then how we represent ourselves, obviously, and social media and such. So as you were writing this story, did you feel like you wanted to, would you consider your film like a kind of a psychological horror film, or kind of a, indie fantasy? Like how would you, like, as you were kind of going about making this film, and your friends ask, oh, what are you working on? Like, how would you describe it to them?
It is obviously a psychological horror, but I defined my film as romance horror, because love and fear are two strongest thing for people. Like maybe we can say that it's a war and sex, and it developed people history.
That's an interesting way to kind of capture it, So as you were kind of coming up with the visual approach that you wanted to do with the film, what was the way that you wanted it kind of photographed to kind of create that kind of tension and romance that you kind of allude to?
I think in my film there are many symbolic scenes. Maybe sometimes it's ambiguous for audience, but like a lot of things there are image of reflection. The character is seeing reflected image of himself or herself, like mirrors and water and PC monitors, and sometimes reflected image on other person's eye. But this is the point of this film. We can only see ourselves through the reflected image. We cannot see ourselves by ourselves. So the message of this film is think about other and care about other in order to love myself.
And so, so is this your first feature film?
It is, yes.
And as you were kind of, it seems like this is an idea that you've been ruminating and thinking about for the years, and I think you did such a great job of telling a really just thought-provoking story in a very cinematic way. Were there certain types of films or filmmakers that influenced you, or?
Yeah, of course. I hope you know this guy, the Satoshi.
Okay, yeah.
You know this guy is the animation director.
Yeah.
His films are always
interesting.
dealing with the reality and imagination, like Perfect Blue and Paprika. Are his films released in US as well?
Yes, but for very film loving audiences or cinephile audiences, right. I think the nice thing with film around the world nowadays is it's much more accessible.
Yeah.
But to whether you can discover it or not, you have to kind of hear from a friend or you read in an article.
So for audience, please watch his films. It's great. Another thing great about his film is always about 90 minutes. I think it's important that the duration of the film is accurate for the theme. And yeah.
And do you think being influenced by kind of animation visuals kind of affected the way that you worked your camera in your film? Like, did you feel like you weren't bound by any kind of rules because of these influences, I guess?
Yeah, animation is very influential for me. Maybe it's because for Japanese people, the first time we see on cinema is animation, definitely, at 5 years old or 6 years old. And I saw my first cinema experience was animation as well. And I started to search how it is made. And there's a storyboard for animation. I thought, and I do write storyboard for my film because I thought this is how the film is made.
Oh, wow. I'd love to see that. That'd be really interesting to see how the film evolved from, because usually, for independent films, we don't have the luxury of having a storyboard. I mean, maybe a really complicated sequence. And so often you think of like big action movies in the United States that are storyboarded because there's lots of moving parts and different shots that you're trying to kind of sync up. So as you've got a chance to share this film around the world, how have audiences in Japan reacted to it, and how have other screenings that you've done outside of Japan, do they kind of take the same thing away from it, or do they approach the story in a different way?
I think that was different. When I show this film outside Japan, most audience are interested in the silent mute photographer. Maybe it's because the photographer is the only one character who doesn't speak language. So for those who don't understand Japanese language, he maybe looks more familiar because he doesn't speak and he expresses his feeling with face and the body movement. So if I do a Q&A with film festival outside Japan, most festival must ask me about the silent photographer. And if I show the film in Japan, at film festival, most questions are about praying mantis because it's so controlled, and praying mantis is maybe very new for Japanese audience.
Oh, really?
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't speak much, of course. Praying mantis doesn't speak, so people can concentrate on its image.
Oh, nice. I think earlier on, I'd read a review of your film where they felt that you were carrying on in the tradition of the really great Canadian filmmaker David Cronenberg.
Yes.
And I was like, that is high praise and also very accurate, I think, in the sense that you took some really interesting themes and then kind of crafted just a really good story. What was it like for your working with your actors? I mean, when you have actors that have to embody very difficult roles, was it hard for them to get into character, or was it traumatic at all of them having to live in these characters from day to day?
I think actors were doing very, very good in this film. And to be honest with you, I didn't talk with actors very much because it's always stressful that they ask me questions. So one thing I told them before shooting was the duration. This sequence should end in 1 minute. So if the scene is getting longer, I say stop. Or it's over 60 seconds. So please finish it. And I could do that because I didn't record the sound on set.
Okay. Oh,
Everything
interesting.
was, so yeah. So and I think it worked well because in everything there's an obvious moment to conclude the sequence. Maybe it's because they actors had a sense of they should finish the sequence, conclude the sequence.
Okay. Well, that's definitely a different way of working, but you can kind of see that in the final edit, I guess. There's a very intentional rhythm to the storytelling. So I didn't realize that you hadn't recorded sound on set. Typically, even though there's a lot of Foley and sound design work done in any film afterwards. So did you decide to do that because you knew that you wanted to create your own soundscape for the film afterwards? Or was it a budgetary decision? What made you decide not to record sound?
Both. I decided not to record the sound on the set. One reason is the photography store is too small. And I think there are about 3 or 4 people could stay in that room. So photographer, me, and the focus puller, and there was no space for sound recordist. And another reason is I like silent films like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. And I think silent films didn't record the sound on the set, but it's telling a story enough. So I thought sound recording on the set is not mandatory to capture the audience sympathy.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the film again with that in mind. That's very clever. So, as we kind of wrap up, just wondering, like, I think a lot of people in our audience always wonder, they get a chance to see a new filmmaker's film, and they always wonder what's next. Are you taking advantage of the pandemic to write another script, or do you have another idea that you're ready to film?
Yeah, I make a short film this year, and I hope I can make next film next year, next feature film. So I hope I can show you my next feature film on 2023.
These things always take a while, but when you give the projects time to marinate and take some time, I think you wind up something beautiful like you have. So thank you again for sharing the film with SF Indie Fest. And as just a kind of reminder to the audience out there, is that independent filmmakers like Takashi really rely on us to kind of help spread the word. So if you like the film, talk about it on social media and talk about how you saw this great indie film, Woman of the Photographs, and other communities will get a chance to watch it as well. So have a great day, guys. See ya.